Well, you and I have had our disagreements about this, but the fact is that Cain Velasquez has not defended his title in a year now, so
Yeah.
there's a justification for having an interim title be on the line. Just looking at the fact that Dominic Cruz sat on the shoulders for 2 years and they had to make an interim title, so it happens.
It does happen. I just hate hearing interim. I remember when I first told you about this, you didn't even bat an eye. You're like, oh, okay, what's for dinner? It's like, who
Exactly.
cares?
It's what happens. If guys, I mean, they've had interim titles made on lesser excuses, but being off for a whole year is a pretty good one.
Yeah, I would, at that point, if it's a year, strip him of the title. Sorry about your damn luck, but it's been a year. You haven't fought in a freaking year.
Yeah, but Cain Velasquez is the most dominant heavyweight champion we've ever seen. And he's still going to fight in January. We've had this whole argument before.
Yes, we
He's
have.
going to be back in January or February anyway.
If he gets hurt before that fight, then you got a real problem.
Then whoever's the interim champion probably becomes the real champion.
Well, Mark Hunt is playing with house money here.
Well, he's playing with I don't want any advice from keyboard warriors here.
Oh, God. That was quite the statement, I have to say.
Yeah, it was filled with more profanity. We've already apologized for profanity that a fighter said once, so I'm not going to repeat all the profanity that Hunt used, but he was very unkind to his critics.
Yeah, last time I checked, this show's called Glow Up or Shut Up, not the Jerry Springer podcast.
Exactly. So, let's just say Hunt is not a fan of the people who are saying he doesn't have a chance. So, maybe he's going to rip me a new one here, but I don't like his chances in this fight.
No, I would love to pick Hunt. I would. 9 times out of 10, I would pick Hunt. But Werdum, I mean, damn, it's Werdum. Like, this guy, look at the guys he's beaten. Look at the people he has put down.
Doom in Werdum. I mean, it's doom when you face him. He beat Travis Brown, who was one of the hottest rising heavyweights in the division. He beat Rodrigo Nogueira with a verbal submission. That's how much pain Nogueira was in. He screamed out that he quit. He beat Mike Russo in a devastating fashion. Just beat the smack out of him. He beat Big Country. The only guy he's lost to in like the last 4 years is Alistair Overeem.
That's true, but he did beat Fedor. He did beat Bigfoot back in Strikeforce. The only other loss I could see here in the last 4 or 5 years is JDS.
Right, and that was pretty much at the point where he decided to reinvent himself because he lost to JDS. He knew what his prospects were in UFC at the time. He left. He went to Strikeforce. He made his name there. He beat the guy who was once considered the pound-for-pound heavyweight champion of the world in Fedor. And after that, he's just been tearing it up to the point where he worked his way up to being the number one contender for Cain Velasquez's title. So, fair enough to him. He still deserves to be fighting for a title. He's earned it.
And it's a very short list of fighters who fought in Pride that, have a chance to wear the UFC heavyweight crown.
Yeah. So, even shorter list of guys who fought in both Pride and Strikeforce.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's been around the block quite a few times, so this might be like the culmination of his career here if he wins the interim title. Obviously, we wanted to see Werdum fight Cain, but yeah, stuff happens, especially this year in 2014, where injuries have put a damper on a lot of big shows this year.
That's true, but I still think this is a fun fight because this is the one where if you want to talk about a lucky punch or a puncher's chance or a scrapper's chance, Hunt has that because that guy hits like a ton of fucking bricks, pardon my French, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true. He does.
Verdum's got to go for that takedown, not immediately because you don't want to give it away and have somebody hit you with a knee if the first thing you do is go for a takedown, but he shouldn't wait long. He should get that fight to the ground as soon as he can.
Do you think Hunt will have a problem making weight?
Yeah, well, he is a big heavyweight. He usually comes in right at the top of the scale, but I think he'll make it.
No, I think it'd be interesting to see where he tips the scales at. If he's closer to the limit, I think it's good because his power, I think, is from there. But if he comes in very light, it could be a different story.
I've never seen Hunt come in light for anything.
All right, well, this next fight, Jake Ellenberger and Kelvin Gastelum, You talked to Ellenberger, and you can check it out on YouTube. I believe it was like a 15 or 20-minute interview.
Right. I did a profile piece with MMA Mania, and I talked to Ellenberger about the upcoming fight, how his training and preparation was going, and how he rated Gastelum, and whether he thought Gastelum would have trouble making the weight, and all sorts of topics. We even talked about his brother Joe.
Now, is he doing most of his training in? Oh, I don't
He's in
know.
California. He's training at Elevation in California.
Oh, he's Elevation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he told me that. He said it wasn't going to be a problem going to Mexico City because he was training at Elevation already, so his cardio and his blood and everything would be fine when he got to Mexico City. And he was actually getting ready to head out to Mexico in a little bit, so he was already getting acclimated to the Elevation, and then he was going to go and get even more acclimated. So based on what Ellenberger was saying, you would almost think, this will be a walk in the park for him. But it's Kelvin Gastelum, and Kelvin Gastelum is unbeaten in UFC, so there's no walk in the park with him.
No, and that's the way you're supposed to do it, where the Elevation, you basically get yourself ready for that climax. You get there early, you get accustomed. That way, when it comes time for the show, you're good to go, basically. Ellenberger strikes me as a very smart fighter. But, Kelvin, man, you don't want to underestimate him. I don't think Ellenberger is at this fight. I think this is going to be a very tough fight for both fighters.
I agree, and that's why I'm looking forward to it, because this is one of those fights that's going to really shake things up in a weight class, because they're both, Ellenberger's had a couple of cracks at the top of the division, and he's looking to get back there, but at the same time, Gastelum is that young, hungry, fast fighter who's yet to be beaten, and like I said, undefeated in UFC, but he's undefeated as a whole. So if Ellenberger hands him his first loss, he gets right back on track for getting into a title shot and working his way back up the ranks. And if Gastelum beats him, he beats a guy with a name that everybody knows that's been in some of the best highlight reel finishes we've seen in the weight class. So it's a huge fight for both guys.
Yeah, Kelvin right now is ranked 11. Ellenberger is 7. Ellenberger goes up one spot. Damian Maia goes down one spot. So he's now number 7. Ellenberger wins here. I don't know if you put him ahead of Matt Brown or Hector Lombard, but if Kelvin wins, you definitely put him ahead of Dong Young Kim and maybe even Tarek Safadine.
It's, like I said, it's a very big chance for both guys. Although, to hear Ellenberger tell it, rankings don't matter. He said he just goes in there and fights and he ignores the numbers.
I think Ellenberger, if he wins this fight, he has to call somebody out.
I hope so. I'd like to see it, but we'll just wait and see. I'm picking Ellenberger for now, and that's because I believe in his game plan after having talked to him. But man, Gastelum is not going to roll over for him.
Oh God, no. But if Ellenberger wins, I want him to call out Matt Brown.
Sure, why not?
That'd be a great fight.
Well, speaking of who you think is going to win and who they're going to call out, Ricardo the Bully Lamas and Dennis the Menace Bermudez. Who wins that fight, and who do they call out afterward?
Oh boy. This is going to be a fight. This could be fight of the night. And I almost said that about the Ellenberger-Kelvin fight, but Bermudez and Lamas, man, this fight can go either way. Like, I hate to say this fight will go to the judges, but it probably will.
Well, they've both been perennial contenders for a while now, so.
Yeah, it's, boy, who do you got in this one, Stevie? Because it's a coin flip for me right now. I hate saying that, but it's true.
Well, if you looked at the rankings solely to make your decision, you would pick Ricardo Lamas. And if you based it on who's had a longer run of waiting to get a shot and not getting a shot, the Bully's definitely up there. But at the same time, he's looked vulnerable. He lost to Jose Aldo by unanimous decision, and that was the first chink in the armor. And he got the decision against Takran Diaz, and I was there for that fight, but I expected him to be a lot more dominant in that fight than he was, and there was times that fight was really close. So I don't know about this fight with Dennis Bermudez, because this could be the one. I mean, he's been in there for a while. He beat Max Holloway, who we've both discussed being one of the hottest young fighters in UFC, and he beat Seiler, who we just talked about being cut. But the one that really impressed me with Dennis Bermudez was on the Lawler versus Brown. And you just talked about calling out Matt Brown, so perfect timing on that. But on that card, do you remember that he finished Clay Guida in the second round with a rear naked choke?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Bermudez lately like, this guy, after taking 3 straight losses, including in the Ultimate Fighter 14 finale. He's not been the same guy since then. He's gone on to run up 7 straight wins. He's beating better guys each time he wins. You know, you go from Holloway to Seiler to Hedges to Guida. You're working your way up the food chain there. And I feel like as much as I like the bully and as much as I've advocated for him in the past to get a title shot, and then he did, and it didn't go his way, I'm not sure this goes his way either.
Well, I'm actually going to go with Lamas on this one. I understand Bermudez, your arguments for that. That's, you know, I completely see where you're coming from, but I think Lamas, 2 rounds to 1, I think it's going to be a very close fight.
I agree with you, it'll go to decision, so either way it doesn't surprise me, whoever wins.
There is a funny thing, and if you look at the rankings right now, Bermudez is number 7. He wins, you might make an argument, okay, maybe he can beat a guy like a Dustin Poirier. But who's number 5, Stevie? Conor
McGregor.
It'd definitely be a ranking influence fight for sure, but we're running short on time, so looking at the other fights on this card, you got the 2 tough Latin America finals on the prelims. Jessica Evil Eye against Leslie Smith. You know, that'd probably be a great fight. So I'm thinking the prelims starting at 8 o'clock. Definitely tune in for those as well.
I agree.